Good morning and welcome to Rooted. My name is Jenna. What are some of the words you associate with Christmas? Presents, that's a very common one in this house. Decorations, fairy lights, turkey. What about peace, love, joy, hope? I've been thinking a lot about hope recently. We were thinking about it in our series in 1 Peter, and it's something that has come up again and again for me this year. One of my cell group even challenged me recently about how I use the word hope in day-to-day conversations. Thank you for that, Catherine. So what hopes do you have this Christmas? Maybe you're hoping to see loved ones indoors for the first time in months. As tricky as I know that is at the minute with current restrictions and large families in particular. Maybe you're hopeful for a vaccine, for safety for yourself or for vulnerable loved ones. Anyone just hopeful for the end of 2020? Hopeful that 2021 may bring the return of some semblance of normality. What I've been challenged about recently is our eternal hope, the hope for heaven, the hope that all of this is just transient and that there is something far greater to come. This year has been tough, no doubt. Personally speaking, my job as a GP has changed beyond recognition. It's hard. It's more challenging than it ever was before. And a lot of the enjoyment and satisfaction I got from it is just gone at the minute. I'm dealing with heavy things on a regular basis, and I am weary. I also continue to worry for my parents, particularly my dad, who is also a GP and still working and still seeing patients. And my kids. My kids have been in and out of school like a yo-yo, isolating for this symptom or that symptom. We've become very familiar with our local COVID testing centre. And each time it happens, of course, I have to isolate too, to protect my patients, to protect my co-workers. But each time it causes havoc. I have to rearrange surgeries and swap shifts. And I realise that this is just the tip of the iceberg and that these are minor inconveniences compared to what some of you are facing. I know there are financial uncertainties. I know there have been job losses. I know there have been health crises and bereavements. 2020 has not been plain sailing for anybody. But, and now to quote another one of my cell group here, but God. He has been there through it all. We can trust him with our future and we can have hope for eternity. When I was asked to do this Rooted devotional, Christmas wasn't even properly on my radar yet. At the time of recording this, I haven't even got my decorations up yet. So to get my head in the right place and to gain some inspiration, I pulled out Gilbert's book from a couple of years ago, The Arrival. And as I read through that, I was struck by two passages and accompanying reflections. The first was Luke chapter 1, verses 12 to 17. This is Zachariah's encounter with the angel Gabriel, who foretells John the Baptist. And the other is Luke chapter 2, verses 1 to 7, where the census is announced and Mary and Joseph travel to Bethlehem. Both, I think, are good reminders that God's purposes are so much bigger than ours. We see our lives and our circumstances and the world through a tiny window in time. God sees the entire history of the world, of the universe. And yet, amazingly, he achieves his purposes through individuals. Zachariah and Elizabeth had to go through the pain of childlessness and wait until old age for a baby. There was a reason for this, The timing was important in the scale of history. John had to come when he did to prepare the way for Jesus. But also, the work in their lives was important. And I imagine that experience changed Zachariah and Elizabeth, and also those who witnessed that period in their lives. For Mary and Joseph, the census was inconvenient, incredibly bad timing. But it meant that Jesus was born in Bethlehem, fulfilling the prophecy in Micah chapter 5. Mary had to endure that journey, heavily pregnant. Now, having been heavily pregnant twice before, I have no doubt that that was uncomfortable and that she suffered physically. And I imagine that Caesar was not her favourite person. But behind Caesar and his decision was God. And similarly, behind our politicians on the Hill is God. Behind Boris Johnson and his cabinet is God. And dare I say it, behind Trump and Joe Biden and the rest is God. He is sovereign over all of history, yet he hears our prayers and is interested in our lives. His interest lies more with our souls and our circumstances, but he may use those circumstances to work in our lives. He has purposes to achieve on a world scale, but also in our individual lives. He wants to transform us, to fulfill us, to make us more holy. So, let's trust God with our world, even when it seems like it's spinning out of control. Trust He knows exactly what He is doing. Trust Him with our lives and our futures. And let's be open to the work He is doing in us as we live through this unique point in history. And let's have hope. Hope for 2021 and hope for an eternity far greater than we can ever imagine. May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in Him, so that you may overflow with hope by the power of the Holy Spirit.